In this episode of OG55, I got Mr. Seymour Duck in the house today. We're talking about Hugh Johnston, Disney CFO, the Chief Financial Officer. He's made some recent comments. We're going to break those down. We're also going to talk about some news that Warner Brothers is going to be doing a restructuring and what that might mean for the future and how that might change the entertainment landscape. Up next here on OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. I am here with the one, the only Mr. Get That Bread, Get That Head, Seymour Duck. How you doing, Mr. Duck?
Hello. Glad to be back here and nerd out with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to have you on. I always love having you on, sir. And where can everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir?
Yeah, you can find me on X at Mr. Seymour Duck or a Blue Sky at Mr. Duck.social.
Perfect. All right, let's dive right in. We got Hugh Johnston news, Seymour. We got some Warner Brothers stuff. There's been a lot going on lately, so let's kind of break this down. And the more I hear from Hugh Johnston, the more I like. So he is an incredible get from Disney. I mean, they made the right call with this guy for sure. But this is from our friends at Boardwalk Times. Had a chance to meet Zach from Boardwalk Times, actually at D23. Really great guy. We're trying to get him back on the channel very soon. But it says here, Disney CFO Hugh Johnston on the changes he's made at Disney. And there's a couple bullet points here. We're going to go over some more comments, though. But it says here that he's reducing costs in certain areas to help reinvestment, planning and forecasting processes, and communication with investors. Now, before we kind of break down the various individual kind of comments that he talked about, Seymour, anything you want to kind of elaborate or add to in regards to these 3 points right here?
Yeah, first thing I wanted to say is that Disney is glad to have like a guy like Hugh Johnston as a CFO. Because unfortunately, I didn't like what happened between the last CFO with Bob Chapek, and it was even. I heard there was bad blood to the point where she went to the board and got him fired. That's like the whole thing with Christy McCarthy.
Yeah, she did him dirty. She absolutely did.
And I heard there was a lot of tension. There was a lot of pushback from her and Bob Chapek, and Bob Chapek did a lot of spending. And you could see that, and they're focused on spending so much money and quantity instead of the quality, right? And and there was rumors that he was listening to Kareem Daniels and not the CFO. And Kareem Daniels was a Wall Street guy, and he's trying to stay focused on growth, don't focus on the quality. And it's like I didn't like that part of Disney when that happened. And when you get someone from Pepsi, Hugh Johnston. That was amazing news, and the results are showing, right? They're showing the quality that Disney can do, right? They have been reducing costs, and you're now seeing the quality that Disney can produce in the content without spending too much.
Exactly. They are turning the ship around. Absolutely. This was an amazing get by Disney. And this guy, that's one thing about with McCarthy. I agree with you. The backstabbing, we weren't big fans of Chapek. We gave him a fair shake, but he wasn't the greatest thing ever. But to do that whole thing and go behind his back and all that, it just feels so corporate and sleazy. I feel like at least with this guy, and again, my opinion might change. There might be something might come out about him that isn't cool. But as of right now, it seems like he's on the up and up. He's competent. He knows what he's doing. It's been a very positive tenure so far. You know what I'm saying? And he did amazing things over at Pepsi. So
the one thing I do like about him is that he's giving transparency to investors, and we didn't get that with Chapek. And unfortunately, we didn't get that with McCarthy as well. I did a little background. Staggs was pretty transparent. He was also the CFO, Tom Staggs. But with Hugh Johnston, he's very transparent. It's like, and he's very close with the CEO, with Bob Iger currently, right? And I'm hoping when you get the new CEO, he's also that close, because you see him almost like he's the Wall Street guy that you want to speak to now. He goes to the interviews for if, let's say, Dana Walden is CEO, he's the perfect guy that you want to see on CNBC interviewing with Jim Cramer. He's the guy you want to go on Yahoo Finance and do the all the earnings call, because he's the guy you want. He has all the answers and he does it really well. And they CNBC, sometimes people think they're snakes. They
Yeah.
tried to trick him a few times, and no, he's like, this is not my first rodeo. I've been here before. He's
Yeah.
worked at Pepsi. This is I'm not a new person at Disney. I have a background, and you can see that. And I'm hoping that he can bring that same presence with the new CEO. If it's Dana Walden can do all the Hollywood stuff, and he can do all the the financial stuff, which is a great partnership.
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. He knows how to carry himself. He gets in there in the snake pit with CNBC, right? And he handles it, and he comes off very, very good. And so yeah, this is a huge asset for Disney. And and we talked about before, Seymour. I mean, like we don't think he's going to be the next CEO, but I mean, honestly, I know he's a money guy, and I know a lot of Disney diehard fans would probably not be okay with it. But from what I'm seeing and hearing from Johnston, it seems like he really gets it. And I wouldn't be opposed to entertaining the idea of at least considering him as a CEO. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'd have to know a little more, obviously, on his take on in regard to the creative side of things and all that. But I mean, the guy has chops. He absolutely has chops, and he knows how to talk, which is a very, very important thing if you're going to become Disney CEO.
Yeah, and on X, actually, I predicted that he'll get promoted to president one day because of how well he's doing within the company. Not CEO. I don't think he's going to be CEO, but I think he could be president and work with the CEO very closely, because he kind of reminds me of Tom Staggs. Tom Staggs was the CFO for Disney for a couple of years, and then he came back and he was also the CFO for the second time. But yeah, uh, he reminds me of that, but a little bit slightly better, more transparent. And I like that, because Disney right now, a lot of people asking so many questions, and especially with Bob Chapek, I did not get any transparency. With this, I've been getting a lot more transparency.
Yeah, no, well said, well said. Boardwalk Times here continues. And by the way, you have to follow Boardwalk Times, everybody. Like, they break any earnings call or any kind of event where they're talking about like the company or what have you. They're there and they're like live tweeting it. Basically, they do amazing work over here. D23, whatever the event is, they are on top of it over there. But Hugh Johnston is raving about the Disney Cruise Line and says it's one of the best reviewed products they have at Disney. I can vouch for that. I mean, I'm a huge Disney guy, but I'll call it as I see it, but the Disney Cruise Line, I've gone on two of them now, the Wish and the Wonder. It's an experience above anything else. I went into that experience thinking like I would like it. I didn't realize how much I would fall in love with it. I mean, the cast members, I mean, everything from top to bottom is just damn near flawless. But he says here, Johnston mentions untapped global potential as well. Also says Disney Cruise Line will become a bigger part of the business over time, which makes sense. Now, I've heard talk now that they want to have more cruise ships coming out of California, which obviously is kind of a no-brainer. We have obviously a port out here. They don't really utilize it for too much Disney Cruise Line stuff. I know the Wonder was docked over here for a while. That's the one I did for my first go around with this. We went to Mexico. But if they're going to expand their fleet, which they are, they announced more ships at D23, you're going to have to spread these ships out a little bit. So it makes sense that more of these ships would come to California. There might be some new ports in different countries we're not aware of.
There's that one that's coming out in Japan.
Exactly. In Japan, exactly. So they're expanding, and they should. This is like, it's technically part of like the theme park business, but it really is its own entity in and of itself. It's a whole different animal. And
I agree.
Right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I agree with that notion. A lot of people are asking for, well, we should have a new park, but the growth that's happening there, even for the other cruise line businesses, right? They're growing bigger. And with Disney, right, they're the top-notch cruise line with the quality, and it's like a slight different experience than the parks, but you're getting that almost that park experience within that like the Disney experience within the cruise line. And like you said, it's a great thing. You didn't think you would love it, but then you go on it. And I heard other people telling me the same thing, that it's a different experience. And I wouldn't be surprised if one day I will go on there.
Yeah, no, you should, Seymour. I think you would really, really like it. It's beautiful, man. I mean, you just sit on the balcony, you just watch the water. It's super relaxing. If you're into nature, I mean, I highly recommend it. I mean, some of the nature stuff was some of my favorite elements of the experience, where, just middle of the afternoon, I'll just be sitting out there just watching the water. You would see dolphins go by and stuff, or you're enjoying the view with your morning coffee. It's a gorgeous experience, and Disney does a great job with it. Great for the kids, obviously, because they can meet all the characters and everything, but it's a very special thing. It's just a little
I do have a plan, though, when I get older and I retire.
What's that?
If I don't have kids, and if maybe I'm married or not, to just go become like a hermit, where I don't have any place to live, and just basically go on cruises. And I had this idea where, like, I saw one time on X, like, oh, go take 4 years on a cruise and come back, and then you'll have a new president. And I'm just like, that's the lifestyle I don't mind once I retired. I don't need a house. I don't need anything, right? I did all the hard work. Let me relax. If I can go on a Disney cruise a year there, and then go to like Japan, and then go to like just every other country, and just relax, go to Singapore, go to Korea, right? And then on the way there, I go to all these new cruises that they're going to do. I'm like, I'm all down for that.
Oh, that's the life, bro. That's the life. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you in terms of like marriage and stuff like that, and even just relationships. Like, I'm down to like date and have fun, but I'm in no rush to get into anything right now. If it happens, cool. But if not, that's also cool. I'm kind of just see where things go. But the lifestyle that you just mapped out sounds pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Boardwalk continues. Disney CFO Hugh Johnston on the international Disney parks. He says, quote, "I know they're doing very well. We are optimistic where they are right now." So that's a picture of the beautiful castle over there at Disneyland Paris. Yeah, I mean, they're really bullish on Paris right now. I mean, they're completely revamping the secondary park. Formerly Walt Disney Studios, now it's called, I think, Disney World Adventure, if I'm not mistaken. But they're just completely reimagining that thing. But I mean, the international parks, they're doing well. And I mean, anything you want to add to this, Seymour, in terms of like?
I know that Japan is doing well, doing really well with their parks. I've seen a lot of video on Instagram with when they had Donald Duck all themed out in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, Tokyo Disney Resort is just the GOAT, and Disney doesn't technically own that resort, but it's licensed out. So this company called Oriental Land Company, they pay Disney a licensing fee or whatever. But Oriental Land Company really understands the Disney brand, and they spend money. I mean, and the theming and stuff, you wouldn't believe some of these pictures, Seymour, from like, yeah, I'm sure you've seen it, but like from Tokyo Disney Sea and stuff, you wouldn't even believe it was a theme park. It's surreal how amazing it is, So if we go to Japan, brother, we'll hit that up for sure. For sure. But he continues to talk about theme parks, this time the competition, which shout out to Mr. Theme Park Wizard, who is actually out there right now. Wheels down. He just landed not too long ago. He's actually checking out Universal. I think tomorrow, actually. I think he landed today. I think he's going to go to the park tomorrow. But I know he's a huge Universal fan, so I'm excited for him. He's gonna have an absolute ball. Disney CFO Hugh Johnston on Epic Universe opening in 2025, affecting Walt Disney World. Quote, we built some negative in on that. We're being cautious about it. We've built a hedge in on it, attendance side. Johnson did say the outlook for Disney World still remains positive. What are your thoughts about that in terms of like, they kind of are factoring in there's going to be some hit to Disney?
Yeah, they have already stated this multiple times within their earnings call that the parks will be a little bit weaker in the near future, but they still remaining positive. And this is one of the things that I've mentioned. They've gave an outline for like 2006, 2007 for the years to come for Disney, because they're giving that transparency. And Hugh Johnston came in and said all those things. And, they're not worried about Epic Universe. They came prepared. They already looked in the future and saying that, there might be a short-term issue, but Disney's already prepared for what's to come. Josh is already making he had all those announcements at D23, and those new attractions are coming in. Everything's already in the works. It's just, it's going to all come in and, benefit Disney. They have nothing to worry about.
No, yeah, I agree with you, and I've been saying this for a long time, Seymour. There's in our community, there has been this panic, this Chicken Little, the sky is falling kind of mentality when it comes to Epic Universe. Like, Disney's got to respond to this thing immediately, or it's gonna cripple the Walt Disney Company. It's like I've been saying for years that is not going to happen. In fact, you're probably going to get some spillover that will even help Disney World to some degree, because you don't go to Florida and not go to Disney World. You know what I'm saying? So they will get some spillover in a positive way. And they might take a few hits here and there. I think on some of these other parks, like Hollywood Studios or maybe even Animal Kingdom, which are kind of, both of those parks are kind of on the lighter side when it comes to like attractions and what have you. It's possible those two parks take a hit, but for the most part, it's not going to bring down the Walt Disney Company. It's not going to be a huge negative for the parks. Johnston also agrees with that assessment, so I think
we've kind of seen that with the Super Nintendo World in California.
Right.
It didn't really hurt Disney. It actually increased business for Disney, because a lot of people were going to California instead of Florida, so that they went, 2 for 1 and say, let's go to both.
Exactly, Seymour. Exactly. And there was all that talk leading up to that. What's Disney going to do when Mario opens in Disneyland's backyard? It's like, well, it did, and it didn't hurt Disneyland Resort at all. Disneyland Resort has been actually very, very strong ever since Super Nintendo World. Like you were saying. I mean, they have not been hurting. So yeah, I think this is going to be absolutely fine. And it's great news for theme park fans, and it's great news for the the tourism market out there in Florida that Epic is opening. So I think it's a plus all around. So yeah, we'll see. Now we're going to streaming. It says here, Disney CFO Hugh Johnston says the password sharing and ad monetization is working well for Disney Plus. What's your thoughts on that, Seymour?
I mean, we kind of already knew that was going to happen with Netflix happening. I remember when Netflix announced it, everyone said they were going to boycott Netflix. I don't want Netflix anymore. I can't share my password. What is this? They said they would never put that policy in. And then what happened? They just kept increasing subscribers and subscribers and subscribers. And I know how we always talk about how people vote with their wallets. Nobody took their wallet and threw it out. They just kept giving their money, especially even for me, right? So I'm on a family plan where my parents are paying for Netflix, and they have me as an additional user for $7. So they're getting more money from them, and it's like, well, I'm paying them $7 because it's Netflix.
Yeah,
and it's going to happen with the same thing with Disney, right? If you had Disney before and you like Disney, you're not going away. You're gonna pay for that. And if the people who are sharing the password, if Disney was that important for you, then you would get your own subscription.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's going to work out well for them.
And also, I remember during the earnings call, they were saying that more than 50% of subscribers are actually applying for the ad tier version instead of the non-ad, which is cheaper but more profitable for Disney, because those ads make more money with the subscription than just having the subscription model.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The fact that so many people are opting in for that is good for Disney. Absolutely. That's how you make that money, the ad revenue. Johnston here says that Disney Plus is one of the company's most prized assets. It's funny that he says that, Seymour, because I've been told from the internets that Disney Plus is a total failure. What is going on? I guess Johnston didn't get the memo, huh? I don't know. But it says here, quote, it took Disney from B2B into a DTC company.
Yeah, a business to business to a direct to consumer company.
Gotcha. So, I mean, very bullish on, not even just optimistic. I mean, he's saying it's one of their most prized assets. So this streaming service has not been a failure, despite what a lot of people.
No, it's not. It's not a failure. They went from licensing to streaming services for Netflix to their own company now, right, direct to consumer, of Hulu, Disney Plus, ESPN, and outside of the US, you have just Disney Plus with all that Hulu content, and it's doing really well. And I don't know why CNBC, snakes again. They they always, and the Wall Street people there, they always say that Disney Plus, it's garbage, it's failing, it's not doing anything, it's not doing well. Yet Disney, the streaming service, is like the top third streaming service in the US. It's doing really well, and that's under Amazon and YouTube.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It's
sorry. It's above Amazon, but under Netflix and YouTube.
Right.
And it's like you're doing better than Amazon, and everyone has that subscription of Amazon Prime, but nobody goes on that platform.
Yeah.
Right? The engagement there for Disney is really great. And it's doing really well. And their ARPU, their average revenue per user, has been increasing. They've been doing price increases, and their users haven't been going down. They have spun off their Hotstar, so all that cost for India is now going to go away, and their profitability is going to go up. It's been really well, and a lot of their shows have been showing up on the Nielsen charts as well. You always see Family Guy, you always see Bob's Burger. They're always on those charts. Prison Break was there for the longest time.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, Family Guy is going to be another Simpsons, where this thing is going to be season after season after season. It already is basically on its way. I mean, I think Family Guy premiered in like 2000 or like 1999 or something crazy. I know there was like a year or two when they got canceled and then they brought it back. But I mean, this show has had a huge run, and it's showing no signs of slowing down because of its popularity through the streaming services and whatnot. So, and I love Family Guy. I've always been a big fan of Family Guy. I think it's hilarious. Love the humor in that show. Hugh Johnston here says he wants consumers to get used to finding ESPN on Disney Plus. Also says the ESPN being on Disney Plus helps reduce churn and helps both ESPN and Disney Plus. What are your thoughts on that? ESPN on Disney Plus really does seem like a no-brainer, doesn't it?
You would think so, but there's a few people who doesn't want like more grown-up entertainment to show up on Disney, because they still think Disney is a kid brand. You shouldn't be adding sports and sports betting with Disney. You shouldn't be adding general entertainment with Disney. But that's the old Disney, and I believe that new Disney is content for everyone in the family. So if you're going to have sports in there, right? It's not just for the kids. You want you want the parents who are watching sports to watch their sports. And you're paying one package, and that's where I think it's going to go in the future, where it's like you just pay one subscription, you get everything, and it's on Disney Plus, which increases engagement. Because if you have to go through multiple different, which is what I'm assuming is what he means with reducing churn, because now if you're watching the ESPN on Disney Plus, you'll just keep going on there, and then you're like switching to Family Guy, and then your kid is like, okay, I need to watch Moana too. It just came on Disney Plus, and then you go watch that. And then they're like, but there's this new show that's on Hulu. Okay, we switch that. And then you keep going where it's like, okay, it's almost like Netflix now, but at a better rate, because Netflix doesn't have sports as extensive as Disney. And I think their catalog for Disney Plus, which is what I felt a little worried what Bob Chapek was doing with the quantity. Here is like, you're going to have a streaming service, kind of like Nintendo with their quality games, but Disney Plus will be the quality content of for the streaming services. When you can compare with Prime and with Netflix, that's all quantity. You get your quality service here, and I think that's what's going to go. You'll see in the future, with all this that's happening.
I agree, Seymour, and I've never been a stickler for like I've heard those complaints. You shouldn't have any adult stuff on Disney Plus, which I think is ridiculous. I mean, there's parental control options in there for parents to sort of customize their experience. So I would never tell anybody how to raise their kid, right? So if you don't want your kid watching certain stuff, you get in there and you do the parental controls. I mean, 100%. And that's how it should be. Parents should do the parenting. You know what I'm saying? It's not up to Disney to do that. So go ahead, Seymour.
And I find it ironic because they don't complain about that Netflix, and Netflix does the same thing, or Prime does the same thing. If you're complaining that these type of content shouldn't be on Disney Plus, where are they going to go? YouTube? They all have that content.
Right, exactly. And it's like the Disney branding is still going to be family friendly. They're obviously not going to have like the handmade tale on the Disney side of the platform. It's on Hulu, which would be behind a parental control thing, and all that.
Exactly.
So it's a moot point. I don't know why people complain about that stuff, but they do. I think it's silly. Sports even. I mean, it's like it's like, I think sports, in my opinion, maybe I'm crazy. I think sports are family friendly. You have kids playing like little league and stuff. Like, what's wrong with ESPN? I don't get it, Seymour. I really don't. But people get really weird about Disney sometimes, and I think the opinions I see a lot with the adult stuff on Disney Plus is kind of out there sometimes. So, but this is good for the platform for sure. This is going to crush. Absolutely.
And also, it will help reduce costs. And, like I mentioned, in the near future, I think they're going to have that one app, and maybe ESPN as a separate app, because sports people, they want their sports, and they might not like Disney. But the majority, I think, Hulu will be merged into Disney Plus, reduce that head cost for having a Hulu subscription service, because you don't need that anymore. Everyone's so used to it now, even with Hulu into Disney Plus. And they even implemented two things on Disney Plus, where Hulu and ESPN, those tabs are now permanent in the service.
Oh,
and you actually, and ESPN Plus is empty if you're not subscribed. But if you're on Hulu, they give you a little bit a tease of, here's Shogun, here's the bear, if you want to see what Hulu is like. And I'm thinking that what they're doing is they want to show you this is what Disney's future is going to be. Get used to it, and they're going to get used to it, and then they're like, well, price increased by $1, you get Hulu.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the thing too with the fandom when it comes to Disney and change. Michael Eisner brought a lot of change to Disney. Disney was Walt Disney Productions when Eisner came in, and they never made any adult stuff. I mean, like risque stuff, I should say, right? And Eisner came in and said, hey, if we're going to survive as a company, we got to diversify our content. We can't just live on like family stuff, like, The Parent Trap forever, So what he did was we got Touchstone and Hollywood Pictures, and he started to create more adult stuff, but under other umbrellas. So Touchstone, I think they even had Miramax for a while, and Hollywood Pictures, but everyone knew, it was no secret that Disney owned these studios. Roger Rabbit was released under Touchstone Pictures, and then they put Roger Rabbit in the Disney parks. Everyone knew Touchstone was a Disney studio, right? But nobody, it didn't affect the Disney brand per se. People still trusted Disney if it had the name Disney on it. So I think it's the same thing here. It's just a new age. So instead of like, just having everything exclusive to theaters, you walk into a theater and you're seeing a Touchstone Pictures movie. Now you just go onto the platform and you have it divided into these little divisions. It's really the same kind of idea, but Michael Eisner is the one who really spearheaded that. And if it wasn't for that, Disney probably wouldn't be around today. I mean, that was a big part. I mean, you have to diversify. You cannot just do movies like The Parent Trap or Mighty Ducks or Pollyanna forever. You have to have other stuff in your portfolio. And they've done that ever since he took over, and they're continuing to do it now,
And ironically, just today, they announced that Malcolm in the Middle will be doing 4 episodes. And I'm like, oh, okay, that was a Fox IP. And they're bringing it to Disney Plus, and that was a little bit more grown up. That's not very Disney-esque style, right? For the kids, this is more grown up for more general entertainment. And it's like, this is Disney growing up. They're expanding their horizon, and that was the one thing I actually really liked with Bob Chapek, that he expanded the horizon for the viewership. And they started with the international users for Disney Plus, and they added all the Hulu content, and they saw the numbers coming in. They saw the engagement being increased, that it even convinced Bob Iger, saying, you know what, we should be doing that for the US as well.
Right, exactly. And we also have to understand, you have to evolve or you will die, basically. Evolve or die. Kids nowadays, we live in the internet age. It's not 1962 anymore, right? We live in the internet age, and they have access to all kinds of content, all kinds of stuff online now. Kids are growing up faster than ever before, right? So I think the threshold for what's like okay for kids or what's okay for families is different than it was, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So as a company like Disney, they have to move and evolve with that changing landscape too. You know what I'm saying? So, there was a time, even not so long ago, like I said, to use Roger Rabbit as another example, that was too risky for for them to even release it under Walt Disney Pictures. Okay, they had to do it under Touchstone. Well, nowadays that movie would be fine on Disney Pictures. You know what I'm saying? So the times change, and Disney, if they want to survive and still be relevant, they're going to have to move along with those times. You know, even with the parks, we've seen that evolution. When Walt was around, you could smoke at Disneyland. You can smoke anywhere you wanted. It was fine. You couldn't drink, but you could smoke. Well, fast forward now to 2024, almost 2025, you can't smoke anywhere at Disneyland, and you can drink everywhere. So it shows you how the culture changes. And if you don't move with it, you're gone. You'll end up being Toys R Us or something that's just that's out, or Sears. You know, so it's important they evolve with times a little bit.
Also,
go ahead.
Oh, and if your kids has access to internet, Disney is your least of your worries.
Yeah, right. 100%, Seymour. 100%. Hugh Johnston here quickly teased they will make news more prominent on Disney Plus in the future. This comes after the UBS analyst didn't realize Disney Plus already had ABC News featured on the service. Huge. This is massive. What are your thoughts on this? ABC on the platform.
Oh, it's been there for a while. Just like they reported here during the presidential election. That's when I first noticed that ABC News. I had to use the VPN because it's only available for Americans. So I had to use the VPN because I wanted to see it. Because I'm always a nerd with these things when I want to see little features being changed. So I used the VPN, put it to US, and I'm like getting these live channels now that you don't usually see. And I'm like, okay, I like this. And then you see they're getting the ads now, and they get paid for those ads. But yeah, during I think it was a smart move at least for the presidential elections and the debates, right? They had that up there for everyone to see, and that's the move going forward because linear is not in great shape. It's dying, and we're going to talk about that a little further on with Warner Brothers. But yeah, so that's good to preserve for their future because I was always thinking like these streaming services, there's one issue with them is that where's those live shows? Where's those reality shows, right? That's always live, like American Idol, the news. That doesn't happen on streaming services much. But Disney has been putting, Dancing with the Stars on Disney Plus live while it's on ABC. First season was only on Disney Plus. Second season is on Hulu, Disney Plus, and ABC. But that type of thing moving forward, right? Having streaming service, also having the live channels. They're even doing with some of the content now, right? Where it's like 24 hours if you want to watch a certain created content for you for like Marvel or Star Wars. They have it there 24 hours, kind of like a channel, but it's not because it's the content on there. But it's almost like we're almost getting to cable, but it's all Disney.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, we're moving. We have more sports stuff here. It says here, quote, "We feel good about the portfolio, right deals, and assets." Now, I'm admittedly not a huge sports guy, but what are your thoughts on this overall? I mean, it seems like they have a pretty good, what's the word for? Well, portfolio in regards to this stuff. It seems like they kind of. Now, I wouldn't say that they're kind of dominating the sports market in a lot of ways. But what say you, Seymour?
When people see ESPN, they get that quality streaming sports. It's like you go to ESPN Plus right now, and you don't get any streams that are lagging. You don't get any streams that cut out. Netflix did one boxing match.
Oh my God, disaster.
And it was a disaster. But Disney's been doing it for years, and they never had an issue. And that branding, ESPN, you're going to get that quality. And even like Penn Entertainment, that gambling company, they even paid Disney just to get the ESPN branding because they know how big that branding is. So they're paying Disney millions of dollars so that they can have their own sports app called ESPN Bet.
Wow.
Which is usually the other way around, where it's like you pay them saying, "Hey, we want ESPN to be on your app." But no, that's how powerful the brand for ESPN be. They're paying them.
Wow. That's incredible. Well, he goes on to continue, and this is the thing too. And a lot of people like to crap on Bob Iger, you know what I'm saying? And I got my criticisms. We both do, but he, I think, has done a really, really good job with his turnaround. And I think it's actually surprising a lot of the Disney doom and gloomers, you know what I'm saying? A lot of the grifters, they don't like Bob, right? For various reasons. But I mean, there's not much you can do, right? There's not much talking points you can really have right now in terms of like the Disney company. They are on the rebound. You know what I'm saying? Are they perfect? No, but they are on the rebound. And a lot of these people are having to pivot because you can only, you can't there comes a certain point when you're saying this company is collapsing or going under, and the reality is so vastly different that you just start to look, just out of touch. And I'm being generous when I say that. He turned this thing around, and Hugh Johnston says the same thing. He says, quote, when Bob came back, he realized we need to raise the bar on quality and lower the quantity of titles. And he's done that. You know what I'm saying? He's done that. And I think as we go on, because there is a lag with the content, I've said it so many times, a movie of today is a product of a few years ago. So as we move further and further and further and further away from those Chapek years, the Chapek era stuff will be out of the pipeline completely, and it'll be all this newer stuff. So I think the quality is going to go up dramatically. Things like Snow White, I know a lot of people are kind of harping on Snow White. I won't see that movie. I love you, Rachel. I think she's a lovely woman. Rachel Zegler is amazing, but this movie does not look good. But things like that are still residual stuff from like Chapek, the pandemic, things like that. As we go further forward, I think we're going to see more quality. But what say you about the quality over quantity? I know we've talked about it before.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, that there's like a lagger effect, a delayed where the quality coming back in when Bob Chapek made those content, and now Bob Iger's here. And I think you're starting to see the results coming in. Because people were saying like, 2023 was really bad and Bob Iger doesn't know what he's doing. But all that type of content that was released was under Bob Chapek.
Thank you.
And they were focusing on a lot of quantity and not quality. But now you're seeing the results of, focusing on that quality. And they spent so much money on Disney Plus. Like if you look at She-Hulk, they didn't have enough budget to finish all the episodes. They have to rush the CGI. It doesn't look good. And they should have focused on the quality of it. Make less Disney Plus shows for Marvel and focus on, certain ones that that was going to do well, and focus on that quality there. And, they have pivoted from that. You're going to get Daredevil, and I'm hearing that's really good. You're seeing, a lot of the movies coming from Marvel, Deadpool and Wolverine did really well. But unfortunately, a lot of these doomers on X would like to say something else. Disney had 1.5 year that was bad out of 100 years that Disney did. And Disney's not perfect. There's been years that you make mistakes, but for some reason people think it's the end because they had 1.5 years that was bad. But yet we forget that Avatar 2 was amazing. But okay,
Right, exactly, Seymour. This is a 100-year company. It's not even just a 100-year company. On top of that, it's deeply rooted and woven into our culture. Our pop culture Disney is so embedded in that. And so when people were saying a couple years ago that Disney is going through like this brand death, basically, where brand withdrawal, where they won't be able to recover. It's going to take years and years and years to recover. I was calling BS on that because it's like, and I know you were too, Seymour. It's like 1 year or even 2 years, even 5 years in the overall scheme of things for a company like Disney and how deeply rooted it is in our culture and how long it's been around is not gonna move the needle that much in regards to its relevance in our society. Disney had a way worse run going into the 1980s. I mean, they were really irrelevant. I was a kid in the 80s. None of the stuff that I was watching as a kid was Disney. I mean, I was watching like He-Man, Transformers, even My Little Pony. I was a brony, Yeah. I mean, none of it was Disney, until Eisner came in and kind of revamped everything. We had Little Mermaid and the Disney like afternoon stuff and all that. But Disney is something that people love. And it's so embedded in our culture. It's a sleeping giant. If it has moments of like the content kind of lagging, yes, they'll take a hit at the box office. Maybe people don't see the movie at the theater, but the minute they start making good content, people flock to it because people love Disney as a whole. You know what I'm saying? So it's fine, and it's so deep into our culture. It's going to take a lot more than an off year here and there, or even off few years to bring the mouse house down. So I know that might upset people, but it's the way it is. Hugh Johnston here continues.
There was one thing I wanted to state as well, that a lot of people just focus on box office numbers as now to basically emphasize that, if something's successful for Disney or not, but they're forgetting that Disney is now, like he mentioned before, Hugh Johnston, they're now a DTC company, right? Direct to consumer. Right. And And now you have to think outside the box and look at their flywheel, where before it was like, back in the past in the 70s, barely anyone had TVs. They went to the movie theaters only to see their content. And then you had linear where you had cable, but now you have streaming. So less people are watching movies. And now you're seeing the Disney fans, right, being stretching out their wallets for all these different sectors for the company. So you're now watching Disney Plus, you're also going to the movie theater, and you're also going to the parks. And soon they're going to have that gaming venture with Epic Games, and they're going to have that in as well. And you're now spending all your money at all different areas instead of before where it's just one area, parks and movies. But now it's everything diverse, which is good. But you have to think outside the box with the movie theaters, because now you have movie theaters, and then you have the digital sales, and then you have streaming. So you now have Disney triple dipping on some of the movies' revenues.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well said. It says here that both Captain America: Brave New World and Lilo and Stitch is slated for 2025. I don't know about Captain America. I'm sure it'll do decent. But this Lilo and Stitch movie is going to make a bank. I mean, we saw some of the footage over at D23. I mean, there was a trailer recently shown to everybody recently, and it was really cute. I think this movie is really going to be one of the more successful live action remakes. But what are your thoughts on that one, Mr.
I think I saw the views for Captain America for the YouTube, and it looked really good. And a lot of people liked it compared to, let's say, Snow White, where a lot of people were disliking it.
Yeah.
So I saw the viewership for Captain America be really good. Those type of movies do really good for Disney and Marvel. One thing I want to say, though, is that a lot of people, again, the doomers, will like to say that they're in panic mode because they're doing reshoots. But a lot of the times, within their budgets, they put the reshoots already planned in. They've already been doing reshoots, or people are lying on the internet. I've spoken to a reporter that's on X all the time, and I've spoken to him, and he was saying to everyone, don't listen to everyone who's saying that I've been saying these things, because they're not true, right? He talks about rumors and things that are happening in the future for Disney and Marvel. And a lot of people just fake things. And I've seen this with Captain America, where they're saying, oh, we're doing reshoots again, but it's actually not happening, or they're spending extra money for it. And they're trying to be like, this movie is going to fail because they have to keep doing reshoots and reshoots and reshoots. It's like, listen, the movie's going to come out. That's when you'll make your judgment. If it's good or not, that's when you see it. Right. Disregard all the noise in there. Go watch it yourself if you want to see the movie. If not, you can go to another movie. As simple as that.
Easy. Exactly. Vote with your wallet. 100%, Mr. Duck. 100%. Johnson also said he was inspired. Now, this is actually really good. It says here, Johnson also said he was inspired watching the creative meetings and seeing the creatives take some of these recent Disney films from good to great. So this is important. I actually touched upon this a little bit earlier on in the show, where it's like, if he can prove he understands. Now, here's the thing. He doesn't have to be a creative himself. Obviously, we don't want Hugh Johnston in there trying to reimagine, Disney, California Adventure or something, right? We don't want him designing a cruise ship or anything. But if he understands the creative process, if he understands that how to sort of like appreciate the creatives, when to step in, when to pull back, if he has that sort of like that kind of like corporate intelligence where he can sort of know how to navigate. Now he understands he's not a creative, but he knows how to kind of foster that creative energy. I'm telling you, he could be CEO material. Do I think that's going to happen? I don't, but I mean, it bodes well for him moving up the ranks. Like you were saying, if they reinstate the president position, he'd be a perfect fit for that, especially if he gets the creative side of the company, or at least respects it enough to know when to step away. See, that was one of the problems Chapek had. He didn't know when to back off. He would go in there. From what I've heard from people, Chapek would go in there and sort of like try to tell the creatives what to do, and he didn't understand the creative end of it. If Johnson can understand like his place in all this and respect the creative process, I'm telling you, this guy could go really, really far. But what are your thoughts on this in terms of the kind words he was saying about the creative end of things?
Like I said at the beginning, he's better than Kareem Daniel. Because he from what I heard, I don't know if it's true, but from what I heard, that he was listening, Bob Chapek was listening to Kareem Daniel a lot. And at the time, he was the chairman of all the entertainment. They reconstructed Disney's departments, and he was the chairman of all the entertainment. So all the quantity that you saw, Kareem Daniel was in charge for it. And because of that, he was giving pointers to Bob Chapek. And, that's why we got into this mess of quantity over quality. But now you have the CFO, Hugh Johnston, stepping in, and, he's pushing it for quality. And Bob Iger's also emphasizing that, and they're working together. I can see that. And like I said, if you got Dana Walton coming in as well, and she can do the Hollywood side, and, she does the creative side, and then, you work with Hugh Johnston, who understands a bit of the creative side, as a team, like I see now with Bob Iger, and that's a perfect match.
Well said. Well said. That we're gonna go ahead and pivot now to our next story. This is interesting here. It says Warner Brothers Discovery shares surge 15% after company announces linear streaming restructuring. This is courtesy of Sarah Salinas over there at CNBC. Warner Brothers Discovery on Tuesday announced a restructuring plan to segment its business into linear and streaming units. Longtime TV powerhouse HBO will be slotted under the streaming unit. That's interesting. According to a person familiar with the matter, the move could simplify future consolidation. That's where it's at, right? Seymour, what are your thoughts on this, brother? Especially this part. I'm really curious what you think about that.
Here's the thing. They're doing the exact same thing that Comcast is doing.
Right.
They're taking the lowest networks they're not doing well, and they're moving into another area so that sooner or later someone else, maybe Comcast, maybe not, I don't know, merges with them, because that's what I'm seeing. Because you even notice how they're saying they're going to keep HBO. Right, they're keeping their main channels just like Comcast did. They're keeping their main networks, and they're putting the other ones aside. I was trying to find the list of those networks, but I couldn't find it. But yeah, there was they're gonna put it in there, and yeah, I think that's what's happening. They're gonna move some debt around like Comcast, put it within the linear, and then merge with Comcast. That's that I think I see the future happening.
I think you're right, Seymour. I think, and now we have Trump coming back into the White House in January, right? And his administration is much more friendly to these kind of big mergers. You talked about it on the channel before with, I think, was it Sprint and T-Mobile? I think you mentioned as an example the last time.
Yeah, and Fox as well, and Disney.
And the Fox deal, exactly. So these kind of mega mergers aren't, it's not a stranger to the Trump administration. So I can see this kind of happening. Now, obviously, both of these companies are going to have to move things around, which they seem like they're doing now proactively. They're going to have to move things around to get that done. But I'm telling you right now, if Universal gets their hands on that Warner Brothers IP, that is an absolute game changer for Universal in the biggest way. I mean, the IP library that Universal would inherit with that deal would be a game changer for streaming, for TV, for their theme parks like crazy. I mean, you'd get the Looney Tunes, you'd get the Cartoon Network stuff, all the Cartoon Network stuff, Powerpuff Girls, all that stuff would be Universal. I mean, Hanna-Barbera, all that stuff, Scooby-Doo, the Flintstones, all that would be under the Universal umbrella. And what Universal could do with that IP catalog for their theme parks is sky's the limit, essentially. It would be on par. It would rival Disney. I mean, a lot of people talk in the fan community how Disney is shaking in their boots about Epic Universe. Epic Universe is small potatoes, you guys. Okay? Epic Universe is small potatoes. This deal, if this happens, where Comcast Universal buys the Warner Brothers IP, their whole catalog, that is what's going to make Disney nervous, because this is going to be the cow that continues to make milk for years to come. And Universal could do endless stuff with it. And not only that, not only are they going to make a ton of money, but they're also going to be saving a lot of money. They won't have to pay Warner Brothers a licensing fee to use Harry Potter in their theme parks anymore. It's a total game changer. If they do this, I'm telling you, this would be incredible for Universal. You know what I'm saying, Seymour?
Yeah, I think they need to own a bit of IPs.
I agree.
Universal, because there's a certain point where you have to stop giving the money to other people and give it to your own, so you don't have to, reinvest back into your parks with it. And like those IPs from Warner Brothers, those are strong IPs. A lot of people said that Mario is basically Universal's Mickey Mouse. Well, why not Bugs Bunny? Why not,
Yes.
why not the Looney Tunes, right? Where's Scooby Doo? Where's all these good assets? You got DC. You can have DC in their parks, and have Marvel. With Disney, like it could be. I like competition, and if you can create better IPs within the parks and create a competition for Disney where both wins, because at the end of the day, the theme parks fans are just gonna go to both and love both, and
Right.
we all win. I think this is a win-win. If it's gonna help with the parks, it's gonna help. It's gonna win for everyone. And
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead.
Oh, and I was gonna say, and then the content as well. You can actually find synergy where there's been a backlash with Warner Brothers and Universal with Harry Potter work to put here and there. Even the now canceled the movies, right? What was that one? Fantastic Beasts.
Right.
They implemented that IP into their new parks, yet they're not even going to utilize any of the movies in the future. So it's like if you own that IP already, you could have already known that. You could have already focused on that. You can be 10 years in advance of knowing what you can do with the IPs instead of, going back and forth with the company. And in the middle, you have J.K. Rowling. So they're both fighting in the middle. And yeah, if you just own the IPs, it'll be easier. Synergy, essentially. You've seen that with Disney now, right? Even with the... with even TV shows on Disney Plus, you're seeing a lot of Simpsons synergy with the Disney IPs. Some people don't like it. I find it funny, but it brings a better experience for everyone.
Exactly. And the in-house IP is very important. And Disney has learned this a long time ago. The reason why Disney IP stays so culturally relevant for decades and decades and decades, generation after generation after generation, is because of that synergy, that synergistic wheel. And because what they do is they'll create a movie, and then what they'll do is they'll put those characters in their parks. And now that IP is forever immortalized in these parks. So the problem with Universal renting out other people's stuff is they're immortalizing other people's stuff. So it's better to have your own in-house stuff in your park. So if Universal can get a hold of, say, the Cartoon Network stuff or the Hanna-Barbera stuff, they can make those franchises more relevant again, and something that's a little bit more relevant for future generations because of the attractions and the stuff they put in their parks. Now they're fostering their own stuff. And it's an investment for the future. So now these IPs, let's say, for example, Universal wants to, they get a hold of the Warner Brothers IP, and they want to build a big Flintstones attraction. And that Flintstone attraction becomes very popular. Well, attractions last for generations or decades, So that attraction being around in the Universal parks for decades creates a relevancy or sustains a relevancy for that IP now. And so now you have a franchise that is in-house. Now it's relevant because you have a great attraction tied to it. And now based on that, you can start to actually kind of do, like a cartoon, a new series based on that. And it's a gift that keeps on giving, right? But you're investing in your own stuff. When you put other people's stuff, Potter, Nintendo, you're helping those other companies stay relevant for generations, but it doesn't do anything for you outside of your park. So yeah, it's a great idea. I think they should definitely get Warner Brothers. I'd be great for their in-house IP. I agree with you, Seymour. I think that's one of the biggest problems. I've been saying it for years with Universal. Their in-house IP is struggling. I thought it was a good idea that they bought DreamWorks a few years ago. That was a great first step, but they got to go harder. They can't live on Minions forever. And that's the other thing for kids, which Universal does have a harder time with their theme parks with younger kids. You have access now to the Looney Tunes, the Cartoon Network stuff, the Hanna-Barbera stuff. You have a huge amount of stuff you can pull from now that isn't just the Minions or isn't just DreamWorks. Now you can really diversify your portfolio for the young ones. So I think it's a great idea, but it does look like, Seymour, that they are sort of laying the groundwork for some sort of deal.
Yeah.
And there's been speculation for years over it. Go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to mention a few things. So those channels that they're gonna put into a global linear network division, it's TN. They said it includes such networks like TNT, Animal Planet, and CNN. And I can see that's like similarly what Comcast did with like CNBC and all their channels. It's the lowing fruit. They're cutting the fat and putting it somewhere and shoving it off. Like, oh yeah, disregard that. But what I'm noticing is that even TNT, right? TNT had a licensing agreement with ESPN for Inside the NBA. It's not going to be on the TNT network. It's going to be on ESPN. And I find that very ironic because now if what's happening with the linear services going to be spun off, that makes sense why you're already planning for the future of like, okay, we're no longer Warner Brothers Discovery anymore. We are now our own company, and we need to license out deals to other companies like Disney and ESPN. And like I said, like we mentioned, ESPN is like a top tier brand for sports. And people were confused about it. Why is Warner Brothers going to ESPN and not their own? And you're starting to see the inner works of what's actually happening.
Yep. Well said, sir. Well said. Interesting conversation today, Seymour. There's a lot of good stuff here. A lot of game-changing stuff. I'm really impressed with Hugh Johnston. He continues to impress me. I think he's got a lot. I think he's gonna be at Disney for a long time. I think he's gonna move up that ladder. And so we'll keep an eye on that. The Warner Brothers stuff is very, very interesting. Potential huge ramifications. Go ahead, sir.
And I'm hoping they do merge because
yeah, me too.
Let's be honest. Warner Brothers hasn't been doing really good with the animation stuff.
Not at all.
With Cartoon Network, Looney Tunes, a lot of the fans have been upset with the CEO. A lot of the movies even, getting canceled. The one movie from Looney Tunes that they had with the Coyote, they're trying to sell it off with someone, but like, oh, if it's not worth our money, then we're just gonna, basically close it off for tax purposes. And he's been doing that a lot, and a lot of people are upset with that. I would like for it to be in better, management, and hopefully Comcast can get that if they merge. Hopefully the new CEO, the technically new CEO, because he got merged with Lassie, whatever his full name is.
Zazzy, yeah, David Zaslav.
Yeah, he was from Discovery, and then Discovery got merged with Warner Brothers after it got spun off for AT&T. So ironically, this is gonna be like a third spinoff. But so they got merged, and he became the CEO. And it was very ironic that he was coming from Discovery and not a Warner Brothers CEO becoming the CEO. Right. And a lot of people speculated that it was to trim the fat, the merge, and that's most likely what's happening, and that's why a lot of people are upset because they're not focusing on that quality content in animation, especially. I do see some in DC. The Penguin, I heard it was really good.
Yeah.
But the Barbie, a lot of movies doing good as well. But there's some divisions. That people give Disney a lot of flack for it, but not realizing that Warner Brothers is actually doing much worse. And I'm hoping, right. And because Comcast is a bigger company and because they have more money, I'm hoping that when you merge the two together, you create a better experience for everyone in the parks, in the movies, in the TV shows, in their streaming service.
Yeah, no, well said. I agree with you. I think Universal is a much better run company than Warner Brothers at the moment, and I think if they were to inherit these Warner Brothers IP, they would do a much better job than Zazzy is currently doing. I would trust Universal much more with the Warner Brothers animation for sure. And it's sad because I love the Warner Brothers stuff, and it's really been a long time, decades now, that the Warner Brothers IPs have really been underutilized and misused. I would say since 2000, when Warner and AOL, America Online, merged, that was really the beginning of this whole thing. And it's been just a kind of like carousel of just like bad management ever since, really, So it would be really refreshing to see Comcast come in there. Comcast has proven itself to do really good with the Universal IP. They've done a good job. utilizing it and putting it in the parks and all that stuff. I mean, there's issues. I mean, they're not perfect, but I mean, they certainly have done a better job than anything Warner Brothers has done in the last 20 some odd years, you know? So I would be very bullish if they were to get that IP. So we'll see what happens, Seymour.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
And I don't think Warner Brothers is going to survive if they don't merge, especially with big tech always in their face.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest reasons why Disney had to buy Fox, because they're seeing the writing on the wall with their competitors, especially with Netflix, that if they don't expand with their variety of content they produce, right, diverse their businesses, they're not gonna, be relevant as much compared to Amazon or Apple, where they can produce content like forever and lose money and don't care because it doesn't cost them anything. Where Warner Brothers has been losing money over and over again. You see their stock price going down 70%, well 50% now because of that the news, but it went up 15%. But yeah, you're starting to see that. Okay, well, Warner Brothers needs to be merged with Comcast to survive, and then you get everything, right? You get the theme parks, and Comcast needs to merge with Warner Brothers to get those IPs, and they be relevant. I think it's a good thing. Paramount had to merge with Skydance, and now this is the second evolution of these studios.
Yeah, no, well said, Seymour. I completely agree. We'll keep an eye on it. I mean, that'll be interesting video if that happens, and I think it will. I'm leaning towards it heavily, but we'll have to keep an eye on it. But Mr. Duck, it is always an honor having you on. Always fun talking shop with you, brother. If you could let everybody home know where they could find you on social media, sir.
Yeah, you can find me on X at Mr. Seymour Duck or Blue Sky at mrduck.social. Unfortunately, though, I have some bad news. I did sell my Disney stock.
Okay, you sold it. So what was you just buy low, sell high? Was there something that like motivated you to sell it?
I was talking to even a few people in the DMs as well. They messaged me, a friend of the channel, Bacon. I messaged him too, and he's like, "Did you close out your position? Why?" And it's not because I don't think Disney's going to do well. I think Disney's going to do extremely well in 2025. Minus Snow White. Besides that, I'm still optimistic, because we sometimes what you see on the internet is not what people think. So I'm still slightly optimistic, but I think Disney's going to do really well in the streaming and the cruise lines, really well. And it's not because of that. I think it's because US is kind of in a bubble right now, and stocks have been pumping too much. And I'm a little bearish now, and I've been investing in Europe, Japan, and Canada now. It has nothing to do with Disney, but I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, I sold it all, but I still like the company. I think it's going to do extremely well. It has nothing to do with the actual business. Yeah. I just think the stock market itself got a little too top heavy, and I'm a little fearful for 2025 for that.
Yeah, well, that's fair. That's fair, and appreciate the transparency. We do talk about Disney here and stuff, so it's cool to hear your current take on your holdings and everything. So that's interesting. Very, very interesting.
So I guess that special access will be revoked, Bob Iger, right?
Oh yeah. I got. He's already calling me, bro. You're done. Mr. Doug, it's always fun having you on, brother. Thank you all so much for watching. Everybody at home, comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we talked about. Hugh Johnston, all of his comments, really interesting stuff there. The Warner Brothers stuff, the possibility of Universal, Comcast buying the Warner Brothers IP. What do you think about that? What it might mean for obviously their film and streaming stuff, but even also like their theme parks. What would it mean for that? We would love to hear from you. Thank you for watching this episode of OG55, and until the next.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.